Incredible scenes at the Ukrainian border with Poland, a steady stream of vehicles crossing through at that checkpoint, people desperate to get out of the country as Russian troops advance and trying to get out while they can. Of course, men between the ages of 18 and 60 now are banned from leaving Ukraine. The United Nations Refugee Agency saying 4 million people may flee Ukraine to other countries if the situation deteriorates further, and estimates that about 100,000 Ukrainians have already escaped to neighboring countries. We're talking about checkpoints in Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, all reportedly busy. Let's take you into one of those countries, Germany, bracing as well for an influx of people from Ukraine. Trent Murray is in Berlin with that story. Trent, I understand you've just had a briefing on what Germany is expecting to see in the coming days from people fleeing Ukraine. What are you hearing?
Yeah, good morning, Heather. Officials I've been speaking to this morning here in Berlin say they are preparing to activate emergency centres to begin welcoming more refugees. They know many of them, of course, are going to Poland, but they expect many will then continue their journey across Poland here to Germany. Where I am in Berlin, there's around 83 village facilities available for refugees. But here is the problem, Heather. They are already full at about 95%. Many of people in there are people that travelled from Afghanistan last year and still have not found suitable housing. So the government here is looking at all sorts of spaces it may have to convert as part of an activation plan, including former hospital clinics, even office space. But they say they are working on that right now because they can see a potential major humanitarian catastrophe on its way, and they want to be ready to help.
Trent, I'm wondering about sanctions. We're just hearing this morning from the EU Commission telling the world that it is not at the end of its possibilities for sanctions against Russia. Germany, with a very particular viewpoint in all of this, and has been reluctant to really push things further to go as far as many other countries are advocating for. Talk a little bit about that and Germany's position in what we're seeing as Russia attacks.
Yeah, well, that is right. I mean, there's been a big push in the past 24 hours, led especially from Washington and London, to put the SWIFT banking system on the table as one of the sanctions against Russia. That is effectively the system that international banks use to transfer currency and money between one another. By removing Russia from that system, then you effectively cripple it economically, because it won't be able to send and receive money overseas. But the sticking point in all of this is we understand Germany is really against that move at this stage. Officially, the line here in Berlin that they're telling me is that such a move could affect the average working Russian, and that they don't want to inflict damage on people. But what we're being told out of London is it's just a matter of fact that the German banking system has much more exposure to Russia than really any other country in Europe. And so they may be thinking here about the economic damage that that could do to the country if they indeed agree to remove Russia from the SWIFT system. So it is complicated stuff, but just really days after Germany was getting international praise for cancelling Nord Stream 2, it's now facing some uncomfortable questions again about whether it's just too close economically to Russia.
Trent, thank you very much. From Berlin, Trent Murray.